Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's a new year, so in this year we have a ton of new movies coming out. So in this video, I'm going to share my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2023. These are the movies that I'm most excited to see, but before I get started, let me know down in the comments, what are the movies that you're most excited to see? I know there's a lot that I don't know about, so I'd love to know about movies that I haven't heard of and stuff like that. So share those down below in the comments. With that said, I'm going to get started with a few honorable mentions. First off, we have Fast X, the latest Fast and Furious movie. Now, I think the Fast and Furious franchise is just really fun. Just they're stupid movies at times, but they're really enjoyable to watch. So that's really the reason I'm looking forward to this one. We have 3 new DCU movies coming out that I'm excited for, but didn't make it onto my list. Shazam 2, Aquaman 2, and Blue Beetle. I'm interested in all 3 of them. I'm hoping they end up being good. I know the DCU is basically rebooting now, so these movies aren't going to have much of an effect on the universe as a whole, but I'm still excited to see what the movies have to offer. Evil Dead Rises, this is a new Evil Dead movie that's coming out. I've never seen any of the Evil Dead movies, but I'm really excited for this one because I saw the trailer and I thought it looked awesome. So I'm really interested in this one and I'm hoping it turns out great. And finally, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now, the reason I don't have this on my list is because the MCU has been disappointing me a lot lately. And I'm hoping this movie kind of brings them back to form because I'm hoping Phase 5 has a better start than Phase 4 did. Because I think Phase 4 as a whole was a letdown, but I'm hoping Phase 5 is good. And this is the movie that's starting Phase 5, so I really hope it's good. But although I'm excited for it, I'm still a little worried just because I was disappointed by Phase 4. With that said, let's get started with my top 10. And at number 10 is Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Now, I'm not the biggest Transformers fan in the world, but the latest Bumblebee movie I thought was really good. So that's the reason I'm really excited for this one. And it looks like it's going to be a sequel to that one, so I'm really excited to see that. I think the Transformers movies are just really fun. I like watching a bunch of big cars turn into robots and then just fight each other. I think that's a ton of fun. So I'm excited for it for the superficial reasons. But like I said, I really like Bumblebee, and I'm hoping this movie continues off of that in a good way because I do think some of the Transformers movies can be really bad. But because I really like Bumblebee, I'm hopeful for this one, and I hope it turns out great. Now, I know it's not going to end up being in my top 10 movies of the year or anything like that, but I'm still excited for it just because it's a Transformers movie and I'm hoping it's good. And number 9 is David Fincher's The Killer. Now, David Fincher is a great director. I don't know for sure if this movie's coming out this year. It's either this year or next year. I know that. So I hope it comes out this year just because I want to see it as soon as possible. But it stars Michael Fassbender, who I think is a great actor. I think the book it's adapting is a really good book. I've never read it, but it looks like it is because a lot of people are talking about it online. And so I think that's a very good sign. And because Michael Fassbender's in it is really the biggest reason I'm excited for it. And also David Fincher's directing it, who directed Seven, which is a great thriller. And he directed a lot of other great films. So I think he's a great director, which is why I'm looking forward to this one. And I just think the concept looks really good. So I'm hoping it turns out great. And I don't know for sure if it's coming out this year, but I hope it does because I want to see it as soon as possible. And number 8 is Zack Snyder's The Rebel Moon. Now, this is a movie that I don't know much about really, but because it's directed by Zack Snyder, I'm really excited for it. This is another one that does not have an official release date, so it might come out this year or next year. So I don't know for sure which year it comes out, but I hope it comes out as soon as possible, so I'm just putting it on my list. We haven't heard much news about the movie, but I think the concept is what has me really excited. The people said that this is kind of Zack Snyder's version of Star Wars, which I think is a great pitch. I think that's a really interesting concept, and I would love to see Zack Snyder direct a Star Wars movie. But if that's not going to happen, this is a great idea too. I'm really interested in seeing what that's all about. I think the concept art for it looked very good. So I don't know much about the movie. There's not much like story behind it. We don't know what it's going to be about really. So that's why I don't have it in my top 5. But I still think I'm really excited for it just because Zack Snyder's directed it. And I know a lot of people think he's a controversial director. For me, I enjoy most of his movies. So I really like him. And even his DC movies I think are great. Next up is The Flash. Now, this is one that has I have a lot of weird feelings about. Because of Ezra Miller, I do kind of have a bad taste in my mouth because of this movie. All the stuff Ezra Miller did outside of the movie is just horrible. So for that reason, I am a little worried, and I do think the production on this movie was very troubled. So because of that, it might turn out being bad. But from what I've heard, a lot of the sources are saying that this is one of the best movies to come out of DC in a very long time, like since The Dark Knight and stuff. So that's the stuff that has me really excited for this movie. I thought the trailer looked really good. Obviously, we're gonna have Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck returning, so I'm really excited to see that as well. But I'm really hoping this movie is good because it's probably gonna kind of be the conclusion of the DCEU, and then we're gonna see them reboot the whole thing. So I'm hoping it turns out great. I'm hoping it's a good conclusion for the franchise. And I don't know. I'm not sure if that's what this movie's trying to be, but I hope that's the case because I don't want to see the DCU just randomly abruptly end. And number 6 is John Wick Chapter 4. Now, the John Wick franchise is just a really fun action franchise. I think there's some of the best action movies to come out in the last decade. And the first one especially is really good. And it's just such a simple concept. This guy's dog gets killed and he goes on a whole revenge spree, and it's awesome to watch. And I love the fact that Keanu Reeves does his own stunts, so the action is just really great to watch. It's brutal, but it's also really entertaining. And I think there's just some of the most entertaining action movies. I never saw the third one, so I don't know. I have to check that one out. But I think overall, this is just a great action franchise, and I'm really excited to see this one. And they put out a teaser like last year. It was a really small tease. It was only like a minute long, but I thought it looked really good. So I'm very excited for John Wick 4. Before I share my top 5, if you guys have been enjoying this video, be sure to leave a like and share my video with people that you think might enjoy my content. I'd really appreciate the support. With that said, let's continue. And at number 5 is going to be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I'm really excited for this movie just because I thought the first Spider-Verse was one of the best comic book movies I've ever seen, and one of the best animated movies I've ever seen. I think I love that movie, and it's probably, at this point, it's probably my favorite Spider-Man movie, because I think the Spider-Man movies are just all really, like, especially a lot of them are really good. But I think this one might be the best of them all, other than maybe Spider-Man 2. So I really love this movie, and I'm hoping the sequel does a great job, Across the Spider-Verse. I hope it does a great job of continuing the story from there. The trailer they put out last year, I thought was incredible. It's one of the best superhero movie trailers I've ever seen, honestly, because the first half does a great job of setting up where Miles' character is going, and the second half of the trailer just shows you so much Spider-Verse stuff. There's so many different Spider-Man. The PS4 Spider-Man is there. The Spectacular Spider-Man is in the poster. So because of all the superficial stuff about the Spider-Verse, I'm really excited for that. But even on a character level, I'm hoping it does a great job of showing us where Miles' story goes next. So I'm really excited for this movie. I honestly wanted to put it a little higher, but I think, like, thinking about it, some of the other movies on this list made me really excited. So I put them slightly above. But honestly, I'm very excited for this movie. And the next few movies, all of them, I'm really excited for. And number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, I'm really excited for this movie just because of how much I love the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that first movie is just amazing and one of the best movies in the MCU still to date, and it's just a ton of fun to watch. It has a lot of heart to it, and I love these characters. I think all of them are just really good and really fun to watch on screen, and this is probably going to be their last movie from what James Gunn has said, so that's something that has me really emotional, and I'm expecting that this movie ends up being really emotional. I'm hoping that it does, because it's the end of these characters, and I'm sure some of them are going to die and we're probably never going to see them again. So for that reason, I'm very worried to see who is dying, and like all that stuff has me really pumped. But I think the real reason I'm really excited for this is just James Gunn and what he's able to do with these characters. Now, I'm not a big fan of Volume 2. I don't love what James Gunn did there. But right after that, he directed The Suicide Squad, which is one of the best DCU movies. And then he also directed the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which was a ton of fun. So I'm really excited to see what this movie does for these characters and how it closes out this version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Kicking off my top 3 is Dune Part 2. Now, the first Dune is one of my favorite sci-fi movies to come out in a very long time, and one of my favorite movies of the year it came out. And honestly, it feels like time flew by, because when I found out that it's going to be 2 years till Dune Part 2 comes out, I thought, like, oh my god, that's a long time. But honestly, the last year really flew by, so now I'm just really excited to see Dune Part 2. Because this movie, I'm just really hyped for it because of how much I love the first one. And I started watching other Denis Villeneuve films, and all of them honestly were great. And especially like Sicario, I watched a few days ago. I thought Sicario was his best film, and I think like a lot of his movies are just really good. Blade Runner 2049, Prisoners, Arrival. I really enjoyed his movies. So for that reason, I'm really excited for it. And honestly, I feel like he might be my favorite director working right now, other than Christopher Nolan. And also, because Dune Part 1 was just a full setup movie, this is just going to be a movie with a bunch of payoff. So it's going to pay off everything that the first movie did, and it's going to be an incredible theater experience. So for that reason, I'm very excited for this movie. And honestly, I had this at number 2, and maybe I could put this at number 1 too, but I feel like I'm slightly more excited for the 2 above it. So for that reason, it's at number 3. But honestly, I'm really excited for all these films. They're basically tied for me. At number 2 is going to be Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Now, I would not have had this movie this high if Top Gun Maverick did not come out and blew me out of the water, because I thought Top Gun Maverick was just an amazing theatrical experience. It's my second favorite movie of 2022. So that in and of itself has me really excited for this movie. And I just love the Mission Impossible franchise. It's some of my favorite action movies of all time, and especially Mission Impossible Fallout. That's in my top 15 movies of all time. I think that movie is incredible. So for that reason, I'm really excited to see what this movie is able to do and continue the story from there. And because Tom Cruise is so dedicated to doing everything practically, that's enough to get me excited, because we saw in the trailer that he literally jumped off of a cliff using a motorcycle, which is just insane. That's like the craziest thing you could do, and that's probably the biggest stunt that Tom Cruise has done, like the most risk thing. So for that reason, I'm very excited for this movie. I'm really excited to see what other weird and wacky stuff Tom Cruise does with it, and I'm sure he's going to do a lot of more action sequences that are just really crazy. So I'm really excited for that. And because of just because of how much I love the Mission Impossible franchise and how much Tom Cruise has been doing lately, I'm really excited for it, and I really hope it turns out great because I'm pumped for this movie. But at first place, my most anticipated movie of 2023 is Oppenheimer. I'm very excited for this movie. Like I said, Christopher Nolan is my favorite director, not just working right now, like all time. He's my favorite director. Every single movie I've seen of his, I've absolutely loved. I know Tenet came out and a lot of people didn't love Tenet. I think Tenet was great. It's not like one of his best films, but I still think it's a great movie. And I've seen it like 2 or 3 times, and every single time I started liking it more on a rewatch. I think Tenet is a great film. I think Christopher Nolan is a great director. The cast for this movie is absolutely stacked. Robert Downey Jr., Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt. There's a lot of great actors working in here. And Dune 2 and this movie have some of the best casts I've seen, honestly, ever. So that's another thing that has me really excited for this one. There's a trailer that came out last month that I watched, which I think was a great trailer. I think it did a great job of showing what this movie is going to be like. I thought the whole movie was in black and white, other than the actual nuclear explosions. But turns out it's not. There's some parts of the movie that are black and white and some part that are in color. So I'm interested to see what that is all about and how he used the black and white to improve the film. So I think this movie is going to be very interesting, just because Christopher Nolan's directing it. That's enough to have me really excited. But the cast here is amazing. The whole story about Oppenheimer is very interesting. I think you can make a really great movie out of it. So I'm really excited to see what Christopher Nolan does with this one. So Oppenheimer is my most anticipated movie of 2023. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Let me know down in the comments again, what are your most anticipated of this year? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.